May 28, 1940, when Göring laughed at America and sealed his own fate. Reich Air Ministry, Berlin. Marble walls, echoing footsteps, cigarette smoke curling under the chandeliers. Hermann Göring, Reich's marshal, held in his hands the intelligence report that would become, unknowingly to him, the beginning of Nazi Germany's destruction. President Franklin Roosevelt had just announced to Congress an impossible goal. Backhand index pointing right 50,000 American aircraft per year. Göring let out a contemptuous snort. Propaganda, he declared. America knows nothing of war production. Let them try to turn their toy automobile plants into aircraft factories. They will fail. His officers laughed. But far across the ocean, inside Detroit's industrial heart, a Danish immigrant named William Knudsen, former president of General Motors, had already begun the most aggressive industrial transformation in human history. He was working for $1 a year, and he was about to prove Göring catastrophically wrong. Roosevelt's impossible speech. 50,000 planes per year. May 16, 1940. While German panzers sliced through France at lightning speed, Roosevelt stood before Congress and dropped a bombshell without firing a bullet. I want this nation capable of producing 50,000 planes a year. The room froze. America had made 3,611 military aircraft in all of 1939. Most were obsolete, some unarmed, many unsafe. Roosevelt was demanding a 1,400% increase. American newspapers mocked him. British officials doubted him. German intelligence dismissed him. But William Knudsen did not. He simply said, "We'll do it." And then he began calling every major industrialist in America, not ordering, not threatening, not coercing, but asking. And one by one, factories across the nation replied, "We're in." Democracy had just mobilized, voluntarily, the birth of the arsenal of democracy. Knudsen's plan was brutally simple. Turn auto plants into aircraft plants. Train millions of unskilled workers to build precision machines. Run factories 24/7. Use mass production to overwhelm German craftsmanship. Standardize everything. Break aircraft into subassemblies. Build long assembly lines, not hand-built planes. Mobilize women, minorities, immigrants, retirees, students. It was something no dictatorship could copy. Backhand index pointing right democratic mobilization. Backhand index pointing right voluntary cooperation. Backhand index pointing right industrial scale without coercion. By December 1941, just before Pearl Harbor, America was already producing 2,000 aircraft per month, a 20-fold increase. And the real miracle hadn't even begun. The Nazi blindness, ideology over reality. German intelligence officers, including General Friedrich von Boeticher, sent Berlin accurate reports. American production will reach unimaginable heights. Hitler dismissed him. Americans are half Jewish, half Negro. They cannot fight a modern war. Göring agreed. They lack discipline. Their women work in factories, a sign of desperation. Every warning was ignored, because Nazi ideology required America to be weak. Therefore, evidence that America was strong had to be false. This wasn't just arrogance. It was fatal blindness. The Monster Factory, Willow Run. April 18, 1941. Ford Motor Company began constructing what would become the world's largest factory under one roof. 3.5 million square feet. A mile-long assembly line, built on empty farmland. Its mission, backhand index pointing right, Bill B. 24 Liberator bombers at automobile speed. Before Willow Run, building a bomber took 1 week. Ford promised 1 per hour. No one believed them, not even the U.S. Army. And when the first B-24 rolled out in 1942, it was such a disaster that it had to be rebuilt from scratch. Critics sneered. Will it run? Ford engineers pushed on. They redesigned the bomber into thousands of modular subassemblies, introduced hydraulic riveting, standardized wiring harnesses, implemented moving assembly lines. They handled 578 design changes in 1 year without slowing production. By early 1943, 56 bombers per month. By September, 148. By December, 365. And then came April 1944. Willow Run produced. Backhand index pointing right, 428 bombers in 1 month. Backhand index pointing right, 1 every 63 minutes. Backhand index pointing right, 24 hours a day. This single factory outproduced the entire German aircraft industry. And Göring had laughed at it. The sky becomes American. German pilots noticed first. In Tunisia, Major Johannes Steinhoff reported, there are more of them every day. In 1943, the Americans began striking Germany directly. On Black Thursday at Schweinfurt, the U.S. lost 60 bombers and replaced them in 2 weeks. Germans replaced nothing that fast. The mathematics became terrifying. Germany, producing 1,000 fighters per month, losing 1,200, losing irreplaceable veteran pilots by the hundreds. Meanwhile, America, producing 2,500 fighters per month, losing about 400. It wasn't a contest. It was a collapse. Big week, February 1944. Between February 20th to 25th, the U.S. launched 3,500 bomber sorties. The Luftwaffe lost 262 to 355 fighters and nearly 100 elite pilots. Germany was bleeding to death. Meanwhile, American production didn't slow. It accelerated. The Nazi dream of technological superiority, Me-262 jets, Wunderwaffe, meant nothing in the face of backhand index pointing right, industrial annihilation. The numbers that crushed the Third Reich. 1944 alone, 96,270 U.S. aircraft, 16,048 four-engine bombers, 35,743 fighters, 22,591 multi-engine aircraft. Germany's entire wartime production. Backhand index pointing right, 94,677 aircraft. The U.S. beat that in 1 year. Aircraft engines? America, 812,615. Germany, 241,675. Aluminum output? America, plus 600%. Germany, collapsing. Magnesium, 6,333,000,000 pounds. Women in the workforce, 1%, 65% in aircraft plants. 310,000 women building planes. Quality improved, not declined. Slave labor in Germany produced sabotage and defects. Voluntary labor in America produced perfection. The American secret weapon, democracy. Germany believed fear produced strength. America proved cooperation produced more. Workers bought millions in war bonds to fund factories. Engineers updated designs weekly, not yearly. Combat feedback reached design teams in days. Germany had factories underground. America built them in sunlight, with windows, cafeterias, radios, unions, and free speech. Hitler believed democracy was weakness, but democracy outproduced him 5-1. This was the beginning of the end. The women who built the war and outperformed the men. By 1943, American aircraft plants were flooded with new workers, women who had never touched a rivet gun or an engine mount before the war. Germany mocked them. Cartoons and Nazi newspapers showed hysterical American women dropping tools, ruining equipment, or fainting on the assembly line. But reality was different. At Douglas, Lockheed, Boeing, and Ford, women worked 3 shifts. They mastered precision riveting. They built engine mounts with near-zero defects. They handled wiring looms with microscopic accuracy. They consistently outperformed all male pre-war crews. Quality inspectors, many of them hard-bitten men from the auto industry, were astonished. One said, "We thought we were losing experienced men. Instead, we gained the most disciplined workforce we ever had." By late 1944, women made up, backhand index pointing right, 65% of America's aircraft workforce. Backhand index pointing right, over 310,000 women building aircraft. Backhand index pointing right, tens of thousands training other workers. While Germany increasingly relied on starved prisoners, exhausted slave laborers, and terrified conscripts, the U.S. was driven by morale, voluntary effort, pride, stable pay, safety, hope. You cannot beat a workforce like that. Germany never understood it. The Nazi jet myth. Why the Me-262 couldn't save them. The Messerschmitt Me-262, Hitler's jet fighter, is often portrayed as a miracle weapon that could have turned the tide. But the truth is far more brutal. A weapon can only win a war if it can be produced in numbers, fueled, armed, maintained, staffed, supplied, repaired. Germany failed at every single requirement. The Me-262 suffered from engines lasting 10 to 25 flight hours, no high-temperature alloys, no fuel for training, pilots with almost no jet experience, factories bombed, slave labor sabotage, aluminum shortages, machining impossibilities, Hitler's absurd demand to turn it into a bomber. Even if every Me-262 had been perfect, Germany would have needed 5,000 per month to counter U.S. production. They never reached 50 per month. Meanwhile, American engineers were quietly creating their own jets. Bell P-59, Lockheed P-80 Shooting Star, McDonnell XP-67, Republic jets in prototype. By 1945, the U.S. was ready to mass-produce jets with better alloys, superior fuel, unlimited training time, intact factories, full-scale assembly lines. Nazi miracle weapons were miracles only on paper. America was building reality, the slave labor disaster, when brutality destroys industry. German aircraft production became increasingly dependent on forced labor, concentration camp prisoners, foreign captives, political prisoners, terrified civilians. The results were catastrophic. Sabotage everywhere, incorrect rivets, loose bolts, sugar poured into fuel tanks, sand in bearings, misaligned wings, wiring deliberately reversed, metal filings inside oil lines. One Luftwaffe technician said, "Every aircraft was a coin toss. Some flew, some killed their own pilots." American factories, by contrast, were driven by pride, patriotism, voluntary labor, safe conditions, high pay, union support, standardized quality control. No slave labor system could match that, ever. The math that terrified Germany's intelligence services. In late 1943, German intelligence officer Colonel Fritz von Lossberg examined captured American aircraft production tables. His conclusion was blunt. "We are losing this war by mathematics." He reported the truth to Berlin. For every German aircraft built, America built 5. For every German pilot trained, America trained 10. For every German engine produced, America produced 10. Germany had lost 40% of synthetic fuel production in 1943. American gasoline output was increasing monthly. He warned, "The enemy is fighting an industrial war we cannot match." Hitler ignored him. Göring dismissed the reports as Anglo-American propaganda, but the numbers didn't care. They kept growing. Big Week, the operation that killed the Luftwaffe. February 1944, 6 days of hell. The United States launched 3,500 bomber sorties, protected by long-range P-51 Mustangs. German fighter pilots fought like lions. Many died like heroes, but they died, and they could not be replaced. In 6 days, Germany lost over 350 aircraft, many of its last veteran pilots, dozens of squadron leaders, hundreds of irreplaceable trained men, entire fighter groups shredded. Meanwhile, American factories produced 1,250 fighters in those same 6 days, plus bomber replacements, plus transport aircraft, plus training planes. Every German loss weakened the Luftwaffe. Every American loss was compensated within days. After Big Week, the Luftwaffe never recovered. Air superiority shifted permanently, not because of tactics, but because of numbers. The Reich's final realization: industrial collapse is defeat. By mid-1944, German leaders finally understood the nightmare. Factories destroyed, coal shortages, aluminum shortages, no fuel, no rubber, no trained pilots, no steel, slave labor sabotage, jet engines failing, air superiority lost, Allies bombing at will. Meanwhile, America was producing cargo ships in 4 days, Liberty ships in 42 days, aircraft engines by the hundreds per week, tanks by the thousands, trucks by the tens of thousands, munitions in unlimited quantities. Germany had been beaten before the Allies ever landed in Normandy. They just didn't know it yet. The decision of the war, industry over ideology. Nazi Germany worshipped racial purity, willpower, brute force, heroic struggle, the superiority of the Aryan race, myth over facts. America believed in mass production, engineering, logistics, cooperation, technology, adaptability. Hitler believed ideology would win the war. America believed production would. And history remembers the side that was right. 1944, when America began manufacturing victory faster than Germany could lose. By early 1944, American factories were no longer producing equipment. They were flooding the planet with it. Tanks, planes, trucks, engines, guns, bombs, food, fuel. The avalanche had begun, and Germany felt it everywhere. In Italy, more Allied artillery shells fell in a week than Germany could produce in 2 months. In France, Shermans arrived faster than Panthers could be repaired. In the skies, every downed P-51 was replaced almost immediately. Every downed German ace was replaced with nobody. The math was no longer an American advantage. It was an extinction-level event. The panic inside the Reich Air Ministry. When intelligence officer von Lossberg presented the newest American production numbers to Göring in mid-1944, the room fell into a stunned silence. He read them slowly, as if each word weighed a ton. America produced 8,986 aircraft in April. In May, 11,000. In June, 12,700. Göring blinked. He thought the colonel was joking. He wasn't. Lossberg continued. Germany produced 3,000 aircraft this month. He placed 2 stacks of papers on Göring's desk. The American stack, half a meter tall. The German stack, thin as a pamphlet. And then he said the sentence that would haunt Göring forever. They're outproducing us 4-1. And accelerating. Göring whispered, impossible. Lossberg's reply was brutal. My Reichsmarshal, this is industrial physics, not opinion. Boeing plus Douglas plus consolidated equals the death of the Luftwaffe. While German aircraft plants were being bombed, starved of fuel, cut off from materials, sabotaged by slave labor, unable to train new workers, the Americans were doing the opposite. They built new factories, new runways, new training camps, new assembly lines, new engineering teams. Every month, the U.S. added more capacity. By late 1944, Boeing 350B 17S/month, Douglas 250 A-20s and A-26S/month, consolidated 300B 24S/month, Grumman F-6FS pouring out the door, North American, thousands of B-51s, Republic, P-47s in endless columns. A single American city, Los Angeles, produced more aircraft per month than the entire German Reich. And that's not exaggeration. It's historical fact. The nightmare of Hitler's briefings. By fall 1944, Hitler's production briefings had turned into theater of the absurd. Speer, now running the entire Nazi economy, sat across from him with charts showing catastrophic decline. Aluminum, down 54%. Aviation gasoline, down 90%. Rubber, nearly gone. Steel, collapsing. Ball bearings, critically low. Locomotives, destroyed faster than repaired. Synthetic fuel plants, smoking craters. Hitler waved the charts away. Lies, he shouted. Enemy propaganda. Speer insisted. These figures come from our ministries. Hitler slammed his fist on the table. America cannot produce that much. It's impossible for a democracy. Speer stared at him with exhausted eyes and whispered, Mein Führer, they already have. The last delusion, Wunderwaffe. As U.S. factories built thousands of aircraft every month, Nazi Germany gambled on miracle weapons. V-2 rockets, V-1 flying bombs, jet fighters, experimental tanks, guided bombs. But the reality was harsh. V-2 rockets cost 100,000 Reichsmarks each and consumed enormous resources. A, B. 17 cost roughly the same, but could destroy a city block. Germany was building expensive toys. America was building war-winning machines. A U.S. analyst summed it up. They built nightmares. We built numbers. December 1944, the Ardennes, a war that no longer made sense. During the Battle of the Bulge, German officers saw something that broke their morale completely. American resupply was unlimited. U.S. forces consumed in one day. More fuel, more artillery shells, more ammunition, more replacement parts than the entire German 7th Army had for the whole operation. One German general admitted, "We captured an American depot. It had more supplies than our entire army group." Meanwhile, Germany could not refuel its tanks. Luftwaffe aircraft sat grounded. Trucks ran until their last drop of gasoline and stopped forever. Factories were in ruins. Trains destroyed. Bridges bombed. Coal exhausted. Winter killing thousands. The German army wasn't defeated. It was starved. The final numbers, when defeat becomes mathematical. By early 1945, U.S. monthly aircraft production, backhand index pointing right, over 7,000 units. German aircraft production, backhand index pointing right, under 1,500, many unusable. U.S. trained pilots in reserve. Backhand index pointing right, tens of thousands. Luftwaffe pilots. Backhand index pointing right, almost none. U.S. fuel reserves. Backhand index pointing right enough for a multi-year war. German fuel reserves. Backhand index pointing right, measured in days. It was over, not because of Eisenhower, not because of Patton, not because of Montgomery, not because of tactics or maneuvers, but because backhand index pointing right America could replace everything Germany lost. Germany could replace nothing. The weapon Nazi Germany never saw, American scale. The Reich believed the war was about will, race, ideology, purity, leadership, destiny. America proved it was about aluminum, gasoline, steel, factories, machine tools, skilled labor, electricity, organization, logistics. Hitler worshipped strength. America worshipped capacity, and capacity won every single time. 1945, the year Germany ran out of everything. Winter turned the ruins of the Reich cold and silent. Factories stood empty. Trains were simply gone. Locomotives lay twisted along bomb rail lines. Coal piles dwindled to dust. Synthetic fuel plants were nothing but smoking skeletons. And inside Führer headquarters, Hitler still demanded production numbers that were physically impossible. Meanwhile, American factories, untouched by bombs, powered by rivers of oil, steel, and electricity, continued producing 100,000 trucks, 50,000 jeeps, 7,000 aircraft, 400 tanks, 500,000 rifles, every single month. The contrast was biblical. Germany was a dying organism. America was an industrial supernova. One German officer wrote in his diary, "We fought a nation that manufactures like a god." The moment Speer admitted the truth, and the moment Hitler refused to hear it. Albert Speer, the last man in the Reich who truly understood numbers, confronted Hitler for the final time in March 1945. He told him plainly, fuel production had collapsed. Ball bearing output had cratered. The rail system was dead. Factories were rubble, manpower exhausted, aircraft destroyed faster than built, mines overrun, no ammunition for spring offensives, no steel for repairs, no future left. Hitler exploded with rage, called Speer a defeatist, a coward, a traitor. But Speer calmly placed one sheet of paper in front of him. The U.S. aircraft production total for 1944, 96,270 planes. In 1 year. Then the German number, 24,000. Speer added softly, "We lost this war in 1942. We just didn't know it yet." Hitler stared at the numbers as if they were an alien language. He had believed ideology could bend reality. Reality had crushed ideology. The final collapse, not in battle, but in supply. Germany did not lose the war in Berlin, or in the Ardennes, or in Normandy. Germany lost the war in Pittsburgh, Detroit, Los Angeles, Seattle, Buffalo, Cleveland, in factories that ran day and night, in furnaces that poured steel endlessly, in assembly lines that never stopped, in oil fields that pumped oceans of fuel, in farms that fed armies and allies and still had surplus. Wars are not won by courage, nor by purity, nor by slogans, nor by myth. Wars are won by production. And America had production the way the ocean has water. The historical verdict: democracy outproduces dictatorship. Nazi Germany believed that. Fear motivates. Brutality strengthens. Racial hierarchy organizes. Slaves can build a war. Ideology can outmuscle engineering. But the war proved the opposite. Free workers outperform slaves. Voluntary cooperation beats coercion. Innovation thrives in freedom. Diversity accelerates productivity. Democracy mobilizes a nation's full potential. Hitler believed democracies were weak. The numbers proved they were invincible. The United States, an empire of machines. By spring 1945, American production totals stood unparalleled in human history. 297,000 aircraft, 193,000 artillery pieces, 900,000 machine guns, 86,000 tanks and armored vehicles, 2.4 million trucks, 41 billion rounds of ammunition, 5,777 merchant ships, over 8,000 naval vessels, a pipeline network stretching continents, oil reserves that dwarf the Axis combined. No empire in history had ever produced so much, so fast, so precisely, so efficiently. This wasn't merely wartime production. It was civilizational output. Hitler's Germany was an army. America was a factory the size of a continent. The last days, when the Reich finally understood. As Soviet forces closed in on Berlin, captured documents revealed that high-ranking German generals finally accepted the truth. American production is beyond hope of competition. We've been fighting a nation that can replace in a month what we lose in a year. Some Luftwaffe pilots described their final missions: no fuel, no spare parts, no replacements, engines failing, flak guns unmanned, radios dead, airfields bombed to ash. And across the Western Front, German soldiers surrender by the thousands, not because they lack bravery, not because they lack discipline, not because they lack weapons, but because the nation behind them no longer existed. Epilogue: the greatest industrial miracle in human history. When the war ended, America dismantled its war machine almost overnight, turning factories back to civilian production and flooding the world with cars, appliances, radios, refrigerators, tractors, and consumer goods that rebuilt entire nations. Germany, Japan, Italy, France, Belgium, Britain, all rebuilt using the same industrial power that had defeated the Axis. This is the final truth. Backhand index pointing right. The war was not won by generals or tanks or planes. It was won by welders, riveters, miners, farmers, engineers, machinists, and assembly line workers. Backhand index pointing right. By people who believed their work mattered. Backhand index pointing right. By free citizens in a free system, proving that democracy is the most powerful war machine ever built. Göring laughed in 1940. By 1945, no one was laughing. America had done the impossible. And the numbers, The cold, merciless, unstoppable numbers had told the story all along.